All right. And we have started. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a quorum, and I will acknowledge as such. And with that, per the agenda, um, we have a couple of meeting minutes to approve. Before we get to that, are there any additions to the agenda? All right. Seeing none, hearing none. Jim? No?
No, Mr. Chair, yeah, I apologize. My computer's
It's okay.
malfunctioning. So
It's
I can
okay.
hear
You
you guys. I'm
you can
not
just let us
selecting.
know. You can
Yep.
just let us know via voice. You have no additions.
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now with that, approval of minutes. So we have open minutes for February 27th, although all members were not present in our last board meeting. We bring it forward today. Has all the members had an opportunity to review the minutes for February? All right. Any questions, concerns, edits? All right, hearing none. The chair is open for a motion to accept the minutes February 27th.
Like to make a motion
It
that
has
we
been moved. Thank you very much.
second.
Okay, moved by member Weissman. Is there a second? Seconded by member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by a voice indicating aye. If you are,
Aye.
if you
Aye.
approve, aye. All
Aye.
opposed? All right, no opposition. It is approved unanimously. Thank you all very much. So moved. Now, with that, there are three members present that were in attendance at the last board meeting in March. That those minutes are on the agenda for approval. The chair is open, will not be voting, nor member Butler. Uh, the members who were present, the chair will accept the motion. The motion is made by member Weissman. Are there in seconded by
Second,
member
Jackson Stanley.
Jackson Stanley? Thank you very much. All and all those approve, please
Aye.
indicate by
Uh,
indicating
Aye.
with vice. All right, the motion has been approved and the minutes have been accepted unanimously by all the members who were in attendance, three of which in last month's meeting. Now moving on to the closed meeting minutes, February 27, 2025. Are there any questions, concerns, issues, or edits? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Is there a motion to accept the closed meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of the
So
closed meeting.
moved.
Second.
So moved by member Jackson Stanley, seconded by member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate via a voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposition. So moved unanimously. Minutes have been accepted for the closed meeting, February 27, 2025. All right. Now, Jared, we have on the agenda a guest presentation by Sarah Cutter, Executive Director of American Council for Election Technology, VVSG 2.0. And at this time, per the agenda, we open the floor up for you to introduce our speaker.
I was at a NASHED meeting and Sarah Cutter
Can't hear you.
an excellent
You
presentation.
just speak up a little more.
Sure. I said, and Sarah made an excellent presentation regarding voting systems and the technology and the costs that are going to be associated with procuring a new voting system. And I wanted her to come and give that presentation to the board here so that you will understand what challenges lie ahead for the VVSG 2.0 standards, and just also for what to expect cost-wise that the counties can then understand as well. So I thank her for coming on here and presenting it and doing it for the April board meeting. We were scheduled for March, but we wanted to make sure that everyone was present for this. And I thank her for her her flexibility in this as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah so she doesn't have to stay for the rest of our meeting here.
Thank you so very much, Jared. I'm going to share my screen here for you all as well. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Summers and members of the Maryland State Board of Elections. My name is Sarah Cutter. I am, as you mentioned previously, the Executive Director for the American Council for Election Technology, which is also known as ACET. I'm here today to share an industry update on VBSG 2.0. First, a bit about our organization, since we're relatively new and some of the people in the room and online may not be familiar with ACET. We were founded in 2022, and it's a national nonpartisan trade association that serves as a unified voice for election technology providers. Our members include leading voting systems, but also a diverse range of vendors. Notably for this presentation, we represent ES&S, Hart InterCivic, Smartmatic, and Unison. As a consensus organization, and because I'm one of those annoying lawyer types, my presentation does come with two significant disclaimers. First, these are aggregated and anonymized generalizations from ACET voting system manufacturers. And second, please note that this presentation does not address Executive Order 14248, preserving and protecting integrity of American elections, due to ongoing litigation and the absence of formal action and decision-making by the EAC in the provisions that relate to VBSG 2.0. As of now, the information provided here accurately reflects the current state of affairs that existing 2.0 guidelines are, without consideration for potential future changes that may arise from the executive order. The voting systems certified under VBSG 2.0 must meet stringent standards for security, accessibility, and usability, with secure by design as a core feature, not as an afterthought. This means that security is baked in and not just bolted on. A few key provisions of VBSG 2.0 include interoperability between voting system capabilities, which means that it is encouraging interoperability between different components of the voting systems. So components from different manufacturers are able to work together seamlessly. Further, number two is paper record requirement, and this allows for election officials to independently verify results. Each voter will have a paper record of their vote, such as a printed ballot or a voter verifiable paper audit trail. And it also improves accessibility, including specific requirements that all voters, regardless of abilities, can cast their vote and their ballot, independently and privately. So the voting system manufacturers that ACET represents are wholly prepared and committed to creating and deploying machines that VBSG 2.0 standards as they were approved by the EAC in 2021. Further, the companies that ACET represents can and will give you a demonstration of their VBSG 2.0 compliance systems. Please let me know if I can provide any of that contact information for you. Because of the robust nature of 2.0, the transition to the new standard will not happen overnight. It's a phased process that's going to span several years. But manufacturers remain committed to supporting VBSG 1.0 and technically 1.1 systems, although there are very few of those, if any, out there, through software updates, security patches, and technical assistance. Your 1.0 systems are still viable. However, long-term support will become limited as those systems do age. So as to VBSG 2.0, keeping realistic adoption timelines in mind is absolutely key. So for 2024 to 2026, this will be your planning and budget time. However, there are going to be a few jurisdictions that coincidentally, such as yourselves, will be at a point in their voting system life cycle and will go out to bid at the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026. From the industry, this is R&D certification applications, testing, and early applicant certification time. This means that early applicants will complete federal testing in the spring or summer of 2025. There are 2 ACIP members that are approaching that, which are Heart InterCivic and Smartmatic. After testing, federal certification is the natural step after that. More are expected to enter the testing and certification in the mid-2025 and early 2026 range, and state certifications will be dependent on adoptions and readiness. 2026 to 2028, pilot programs and procurement begin. So if you're planning for a pilot, please share that information with the vendors in your RFP. It's helpful for them to know about these considerations early. A handful of jurisdictions or vendors will deploy ahead of the presidential. From the industry, all ACIP members will have at least 1 certification application submitted at the federal level and will either be amidst or finished with initial testing. As an industry, we expect the first large wave to be complete with several systems coming out of federal and state certification by 2027. So that's really the time where there will be a couple different options for you to actually procure. 2029 and beyond will be full-scale national deployment and use in elections. So collaboration among stakeholders is essential to minimizing delays, but there are some key challenges to maintaining this timeline. And it includes whether states adopt new standards or if updating adoption to the new standards is within this timeline. There are potential certification bottlenecks at testing labs due to the volume of the systems. There are only 2 federally accredited labs, and in odd years after a presidential are the busiest for those VISTLs. All ACIP vendors are applying to certify entire suites of products, not just individual components. And a full suite may include precinct tabulators, central count tabulators, BMDs, election management software and platforms, etc. So it's really the whole suite of products. Further changes in the EAC's interpretations, the RFI process, funding gaps, or delays in certification may also change these timelines. And finally, the increased costs. These systems are a significant R&D investment for ACIP members, but we hope that jurisdictions are as excited as our members to adopt these new systems. I had an opportunity to travel the nation last year and see these demonstrations of these systems, and not to sound like a total election nerd, but they're really pretty cool. There's some cool stuff that the members have come up with. So for cost implications, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The general expectation is across the industry that 2.0 system prices will likely increase, and they will be between 20 to 50% compared to the pricing that you've seen recently. So key challenges in providing this cost estimate and why the prices will increase do include that it's difficult to parse out the pricing this early. As I mentioned, they're applying to certify full systems, so it's hard to give exact cost for individual components. Moreover, each ACIP vendor is at a different point in the R&D and testing and certification processes, and there may be unforeseen testing or certification delays. And the unfortunate price increase has to do with a couple different factors. Number one, the upgraded hardware components, for instance, higher screen resolution is one of the increases for the price, but it's also compounded by inflation and uncertainty in the components market that has also driven up the expense. Moreover, advanced software, for instance, the interoperability requirement I mentioned, while that does drive innovation and collaboration among the industry, it's also going to increase the compliance costs. And then these extended timelines that I mentioned, as well as the comprehensive training for election officials and poll workers, for instance, familiarizing your staff with multi-factor authentication components that are required of VBSG 2.0 for certain access. So we encourage jurisdictions like Maryland that rely on or require an EAC standards or certification or a testing lab letter to understand that once the first systems are certified, which as a reminder is expected to be very soon, that questions from lawmakers and especially the public about timelines, readiness, and costs are going to come at you probably pretty quickly. To help prepare you for that, number one, we are here to serve as a resource if we can ever be helpful. I will make sure that you have my contact information, but as I mentioned in the timelines portion, we encourage you to review your elections code ahead of planning for 2.0 adoption. Legislative and administrative delays only add to the potential timelines. If changes are needed, it's important to stress to lawmakers that flexibility is needed in the timelines to accommodate potential bottlenecks and delays in testing and certification. And then finally, because 2.0 has an annual review requirement, you may want to reassure lawmakers that future updates will not invalidate 2.0 certified systems. Similarly, the 2.0 system does not invalidate a 1.0 certified system. There are paths forward for each of those, and you can work with your current vendor or in your RFP conversations to address those. But together, we can successfully navigate this transition. I would like to thank you again, Mr. Chair and members of the board for having me today, and Jared for the gracious invitation. As I mentioned, if ASIC can be a resource, please reach out to me. And if it's appropriate or we have time, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
I have a question.
Thank you. Thank you. I duly recognize Member Butler. 1 second. Thank you very much, Jared, for inviting Sarah. Sarah, thank you for being with us and sharing this information. It's invaluable to give us a clear understanding on where we're heading. Now, with regard to that and understanding your last point of legislative updates to our electoral process, how nimble will the 2.0 system be with regards to maintenance, because there is a maintenance cost associated with updates such as legislative mandates, legislative updates to the electoral process. How responsive, how nimble, how quick can that be done? And as it is that not, and what does that maintenance cost look like if it's already built into the 50% change?
Yeah,
And
so
then
when it,
And then Member Butler,
Good question.
okay, go ahead. Yes.
thank you, Mr.
Oh, go
Chair.
ahead. Sarah.
So as it depends on, exactly what we're talking about insofar as upgrades and maintenance, but the price, the 20 to 50% increase, as I said, does include any sort of training and things along those regards. Maintenance itself is a little harder to project, just insofar as some of the new components, are completely new to the systems. Excuse me, one moment. Beg your pardon. But I can certainly touch base with our member companies and get back to you on some of the specifics. But I would also encourage you to include that in the RFP to get it straight from the horse's mouth as well, that are for those vendors specifically. Because as I mentioned, I can give you generalizations, but you are probably going to want the more specifics on that.
Thank you so very much for that, Sarah. Member Butler.
I'm not sure if I was just reading this wrong or whatever, but at the very end of the presentation, you said that 2029 is the full-scale national deployment. I thought we were having this ready for the 2028 election. Did I read this wrong?
No, ma'am, it's more about, and thank you for the question, ma'am. It's more about that the 8,800 jurisdictions are on different procurement timelines, And so while there will be systems available, some jurisdictions may not have the funding at the time to procure these systems ahead of 2029. Some have recently just purchased large pieces of equipment within the last 5 years and may not be ready to make another significant purchase. So for jurisdictions such as Maryland who are poised in their life cycle to just coincidentally be at the right time at the right place in that life cycle, you would be there at the right time to be deploying ahead of the presidential, but not every jurisdiction is as perfectly poised as Maryland is.
But Maryland will be up and running for 2028, correct? The way it looks now.
As it looks now, yes, and given your RFP process and procurement timelines.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I had a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Member Shalek. This is our Vice Chair, Sarah, who is not on camera, but he is present. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Cutter. I certainly appreciate all the work you do. I just like to know, where you are in the election world. Correct me if you're a private entity, correct? And is what you do a voluntary service to different state boards? In other words, you don't set policy or anything, you implement federal policy. I'm just trying to get a handle on, where you are in the universe of election associations.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Mr. Vice Chair. So the American Council for Election Technology is a 501c6 tax exempt organization. It's essentially a business league. It is in the same vein as a chamber of commerce. So it is actually the private sector of election technology providers came together and said there are some things that, as a industry, we want to be able to provide a united voice on. We do not engage in active policy advocacy or lobbying. We do track policy at a national and federal level. But my service in coming here is merely in an educational capacity and as providing or in serving as a resource for election administrators and to answer any questions.
How many states are, within your association? Do all the states deal with you, or is it just a voluntary state by state process?
So it's at invitation. While our organization, we do have ACIP members, election technology providers who are in a number of states. I'm available to discuss and have conversations with folks across the nation.
Okay. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Vice
sir.
Chair. Thank you, Sarah. Now moving on to Member Weissman. I see he has a question in his hands up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Cutter, thank you for your time today. This is really helpful. I loved what you said about security being baked in and not bolted on. I thought that was really well put. I'm trying to wrap my head around this cost increase. We're in our state just finished dealing with a $3 billion deficit, more to come. Obviously, we have federal concerns and state concerns. And I cannot remember the last time I heard of any industry, let's put aside what's happening in the federal government with tariffs right now, any industry seeing a 20 to 50% increase, let alone such a wide range, right? 20 to 50% is a wide range. Can you walk us through a little bit more kind of what's going on with the cost and why it's so difficult to approximate the increase?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Member Weissman. So it's a couple of different things. So first I want to state that VVSG 2.0 is a baseline standard at the federal level. Should the board choose to hang its hat on VVSG 2.0, you can still curate your RFP to find what fits your jurisdiction the best. So when we're talking about 20 to 50% increase, one, we're talking about if you went for a full VBSG 2.0 certified system. If you chose to have ballot marking devices without the higher screen resolution, immediately right there, that's something that would change the pricing. So that's the number one thing I want to mention is that this is based on VBSG 2.0 as a federally certified system. Two, as I had said, we've got a couple different vendors in different parts of the process. So Hart InterCivic and Smartmatic are at the end of testing and certification, whereas ES&S and Unison have not yet applied. And so they're talking about, well, at this point in time, this is what we expect our costs to be, and what we've invested in R&D. And I certainly am very commiserate with the increase in price. It's also when we talk about some of these additional 2.0 requirements, some of these are stronger encryption protocols, so end-to-end encryption, digital signatures, cryptographic validation, as I mentioned, multi-factor authentication and granular access controls. These things are much more robust than we've probably seen previously, and that's one of the other reasons is that some of these R&D costs were pretty significant in that. And it also has to do with just the number of different components. If we're talking about election management software, well, unlikely to see such a large increase in the price, whereas some of the other more, big hardware pieces would be a higher increase.
Thanks for that. I think that really helps to better understand the 20 to 50%, right? Obviously, Maryland decides to go with the high resolution, which we need to for our disabled voters. That's going to increase the cost. And so there's kind of a customization there. I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around why it's such a large jump. I mean, a 50%, let's just go and say we get all the encryption, all the security, all the bells and whistles, as you will. A 50% increase in cost is a lot, right? Especially over the lifetime over these contracts, right? They add up quite significantly. What am I missing here?
Mhm.
Well, I would say certainly, I think this is a conversation to definitely have in the RFP process and to really utilize that to your advantage when it comes to being price sensitive to have the conversation with the vendor directly as to what you can get the most bang for your buck would be.
Thank you.
Anything? Okay, thank you.
Chair,
I appreciate that. Yes, Member Jackson Stanley.
thank you. I apologize that my question is hopefully going to belabor the point, but Member Weissman made excellent points, and I was really thinking as well. But the benefit to the state, will there be any linking? Sounds like there are going to be various states that are buying into this system. If someone moves to Delaware or moves to New Hampshire, will there be a way to link that person if they start here and then move to a different location? Does the system follow the person, or are you locked into the one state where the system originated?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, we're talking about the voter moving
Yes,
from.
the voter.
Okay, and
I know the system is for the jurisdiction, but people are so mobile anymore.
And so your concerns are that if they move from one jurisdiction to another, they may have a completely different experience.
Yes.
That is absolutely a possibility. As I mentioned, we've got 8,800 individual local election jurisdictions, and each state is does it differently. So Maryland procures from the state down. Other states actually are more of a bottom-up system, where they allow the counties to do procurement at a more granular level. So to say, would there be more consistency insofar as if all states adopted 2.0 and were adopting similar systems at similar timelines? Yes, but unfortunately, I can't say that that's probably likely to happen. But in fact, that is a feature, not necessarily a bug from a security perspective, because it means there is no single one point of failure at a technological level, to have a diversity of machines and processes among the jurisdictions.
Mhm.
And so while it is maybe not always,
I guess I was building
benef-
on Member Weissman's point about the cost, and I'm wrapping my mind around what is the bang for the buck that we gain as we go 20 to maybe 50%, which increases the cost and the likelihood of maybe not even being able to afford it.
Certainly. So I think, it's certainly, it's an investment. You do get higher, more robust and improved security, usability, accessibility, features than to the 1.0 system. If you recall, 1.0 was in fact, adopted in 2005, excuse me. So 20 years ago, the technology was much, much different than what we've experienced in the last 20 years. You've seen that just from your own personal devices. But that is the biggest portion. But I would also, again, encourage you to include that in your RFP, and let the vendors make their pitch to you as to why each of their systems is an improvement on what you currently have.
Okay, thank you. I just
ma'am.
needed some clarity on the system and how it would follow the voter. And it doesn't, but okay,
It-
thanks.
Essentially, no.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sarah. And just to close, I know we have to move on. But if you could speak to the association with regards to preventing electoral processes from being held hostage due to upgrades, the need for upgrades, the cost associated with upgrades, what that looks like, so that jurisdictions will not feel obligated or held hostage for the need of the upgrades to run their electoral system.
Absolutely. And please
Okay.
share additional feedback. I'd be happy to take that back to the vendors.
Awesome. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly appreciate it and respect your time. And so with that, if we have no further questions, thank you. Jared,
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. You can leave us up. I will now start the admin report here. I submitted that earlier to you, so I'm just going to go through some of the highlights that you like here. So first up, I just wanted to say,
Jared, can you turn that up some? We really can't hear you.
yeah, let me see. Usually my computer takes a little bit of time to warm up. How about now? Is now better? Is now okay. But I just wanted to highlight a few things, which is the Election Assistance Commission, the EAC, issues their clearinghouse awards, also known as the Clearys, to promote best practices in elections. And the State Board of Elections received a Cleary for our text-to-cure system. So we won this innovation for a state in the state election administration. And it's great to highlight that we did a nice process here that was safe and secure and enfranchised many individuals who would have been basically lost their right to vote on a technicality, so that we did the curing process securely, but also for convenience for the voter. And it's great to be recognized for that innovation. And additionally, I wanted to give a little shout out to Washington County, because they received a Cleary Award for their election judge recruitment efforts. We had a great, robust programs, and Washington County did a fantastic job recruiting their judges. I attended a page ceremony, which is for individuals 14 to 15 who assist election judges. I think that I just want to, I just love this program, and the law that was there. Senator Simon Ayer, who had championed the page program in the General Assembly, attended and handed out certificates as well. Nicole Hill in Anne Arundel County does a great job recruiting and training. It's something that I always tell the locals to engage in, and every time I visit them, I always talk about the page program, because if you can get the individuals at 14 and 15 to engage in the political process, they're more likely to stay engaged, and they also become future judges as well. I've, just on a personal note there, both my daughters were election pages, and my oldest then became an election judge, and others as well did that. I believe like 10 or so that went through the program then became election judges. So I think it's a very worthwhile program, and fantastic, and something I want to definitely move forward with. Additionally, I've been busy. We were out, I was at the MD 250 Commission, which was commemorating America's 250th anniversary of its independence. I spoke about Maryland's role in presidential elections, and basically about the Electoral College and how we are constantly leading the way from its establishment, our role in the 1800 election, nominating conventions, and then basically with the compact, now that we were the first state to sign on in 2007. Additionally, I then went to an educational forum and spoke about elections in Calvert County with the election director there. So that was excellent. Moving forward here, we had a great General Assembly session. All 4 of our departmental bills passed, and they're expected to be signed on Tuesday next week. So except for the special election bill, House Bill 75, which had already passed and was signed into law by the governor. And we had other bills that were also passed as well, about election transparency, with Senate Bill 337, requiring all the meetings of the local boards be live streamed and recorded and maintained. We also had a few other ones as well, with municipal elections and election judge compensation. We did move the primary dates. That is now, we're looking for it to be signed. It moves up 1 week. So instead of the last Tuesday in June of 2026, it will now be the 4th Tuesday in June in 2026. And I want to thank Montgomery County David Naiman for helping bring that to my attention, and working with the General Assembly, both the Senate and the House, for its passage there. And we had other ones as well that will be, I think, very impactful to voters and help them with in the future as well. Notably, a language assistance program as well that was passed, which was Senate Bill 685 and House Bill 983. But they were all there. Ms. Berry, Katie, is a member of the Standards Board for the EAC, and she attended the meeting in Charlotte. A lot of topics were discussed there, including auditing and list maintenance process. And she had to give a presentation on our Text to Cure program as well, and she did a fantastic job moving forward with it. So we just wanted to do a few things here. One of the things too with the EAC was that we participated in the pilot program with them to assist in voter registration accuracy. It's with using Experian, and we're doing an analysis of the data received, and a summary report from the EAC will be published in the near future. And we will always be considering participating in any future pilot that the EAC does for assisting us in voter accuracy, voter registration accuracy. The candidacy and campaign finance division. We're up and running. We have, new committees that are being established because a lot of them now are getting ready for the 2026 election, but we still have the 2025 general election in Prince George's to deal with. So they have some reports that are due next month in May, which is the pre-general report there. And, the failure to file will result in penalties as well. Right now, we have had 56 candidates file for the 2026 election. And, we're, plugging away over there. Additionally, I know that Member Weissman is always talking about the MD Chris replacement updates here. We had successfully basically transferred over to a new hosting environment to our new vendor in late March. So that went very successfully. And now we are working with the new vendor to get the new application operational as quickly as possible, and making sure that all the updates are meeting our standards. So the team is working very diligently on that as well. So right now, public financing is up and running. Alan and the team is doing a fantastic job there with making sure the new counties, Anne Arundel, Baltimore, and Prince George's, are up and running with their summary guides and frequently asked questions. So we have some new stats there. And on the state level, we have over $10 million now in the State Fair Campaign Finance Fund. So that means the fund is fully funded, and no additional funding from the General Assembly or from the general budget is required. Additionally, that's all because of our enforcement, and we have collected $2,550 on civil penalties in the last go around here. So basically, if we'll go with that. In election management and compliance, again, we're making sure that in the Prince George's County special election, that voting in correctional facilities will occur. We sent out our voting packets and making sure that they have the ability to register and get the mail-in application with return envelopes with paid postage. And we're also working closely with the Prince George's County Board of Elections for the special general, with drop boxes being successfully deployed to 19 locations, and logistics for equipment deliveries have been finalized there. In information systems and technology, we have had, we're in the process of refreshing our public-facing website in 2025 to enhance the voters' experience, and updates to include plain language enhancements and improve mobile responsiveness. Basically, we want to make sure that we're meeting with the governor's issue to ensure plain language, but also making sure that it's more now ability for phone applications and tablets rather than something that is more web, I guess, more tablet or computer-based processes there. With that, we're also making sure, again, working with DoIT and others about generative AI tools for use by the agency here. And, the CIO has engaged with the AI community to make sure that we're in compliance with the state and the state agency guidelines there. Okay. In information security, again, we're making sure that we're we're doing, our CISO officer is doing a comprehensive assessment of all our components to ensure that we meet all the necessary security aspects and presenting any risks that are associated with that. It is a long overdue system and review, and we're very thankful for the CISO to start that process upcoming for the 2026 election there. In personnel, something that I probably should have started off with, but as most of you are aware, Armstead Jones passed away in early April, right after making his announcement, his retirement announcement. And, you know, Armstead was I would say he was just an institution in and of himself in Baltimore City. He was there for many, many years. He always cared about elections and moving and trying to get, elections for Baltimore City. I'm glad that he was able to have a very successful mayoral election in 2024 for him. And that, we will, make sure that he is honored in the upcoming conference at Mayo as well. But he was a definitely a beacon there for everything. Procurements, just wanted to give you an update on some of our active procurements. The e-poll book modernization, we published the RFP request for it, and we received proposals back. They're currently under review. Again, we have the governing risk compliance solution, which we explained the last meeting about, and so that's also being moved forward there. And the new voting system RFP is in the pipeline for it to keep moving forward. And as you can see, it was worthwhile to delay that implementation for more systems to come online for 2020 to the 2.0 standards there. So I think we're all moving well on that front. One of the things that the budget did delay is the new voter registration system. That was one of the things that were cut, but I'm working with the others in the governor's office and with the General Assembly to restore that funding for us to continue on with that project as well. Mail-in voting, the 2025 special election is June 3rd. We mailed out nearly 620,000 ballots between mail and web delivery, and we will continue to email and mail out any ballots that are needed across the board there. So that election is currently underway. So it's, it's great. Again, curing by text was, we're preparing for that for the 2026, and we're now going to go out and working on a solicitation to be posted on eMaryland Marketplace to see if more people will go to our award-winning program there. Additionally, on ballot duplication, one of the things that we wanted to start investigating was to see what new technologies are out there to assist us in ballot duplication for web delivery ballots, and to work with our existing system. And we have an RFI, which is out there, and the responses are due back May 7th. So we encourage vendors to look at that and to see what the new technology out there, and to see if we can help speed that along, that process there. Voter registration, audits, and operations. Again, we're doing our internal audits to verify compliance with federal and state laws governing voter registration. We work with Eric, of course, in processing their data, and any of the voters who have voted in more than one state will be referred to the state prosecutor's office for that. Overall, we have just a little bit under 4.3 million active registered voters in the state of Maryland, so we're constantly growing. And we have some charts there for MVA transactions. Overall, that is the report as submitted. Happy to answer any questions, and I did not use any delegated duties since the last report. So
Thank you very much, State Administrator Damaris. Member Butler has a question, has her hand up, sorry. Member Butler, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a couple questions. First, I want to congratulate you on the award. Good for the state of Maryland and good for you. Thank you. You said that at the MD 250 Commission at the Cambridge Women's Club, you were talking about our role in presidential elections, and then it says, lastly, our role in leading the way to alternatives to the Electoral College. Can you explain that? What
Yes,
that
sure.
means?
It looked like the Electoral College was basically Maryland in the Constitution of 1776 used to elect its state senators through Electoral College method. And in 2007, people were, I would say, looking for alternatives to, not use a constitutional method to, I would say, eliminate or change the Electoral College. And in 2007, there was this idea of the National Compact, which is states would sign a compact with each other saying that they would award their Electoral College votes to the winner of the national vote. And Maryland was the first state to pass such a law, and now other states have joined in on this national compact. It will not go into effect until enough states have signed on to it so that they comprise of 270 electoral votes, meaning that that they can decide the winner of the presidential election. And instead of us awarding, say, in the last election here in 2024, instead of awarding the 10 electoral votes to Kamala Harris, we would have awarded our 10 electoral votes to Donald Trump because he had won the popular vote. So that's kind of this new compact as one of the ways, instead of calling for a constitutional convention, and Maryland was the first one for its passage.
If you get a chance, can you send me more information on that?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Okay, and then a couple more things. Hang on 1 second. That's a long report. There's a lot in here. Okay, and the plain language initiative, that's all to do with what the governor was doing, right?
Yes. So there's a law, a governor has a directive for state agencies to use plain language when communicating with the public. So, and so when we are revamping our website, we're going to make sure that it's easier to understand, and maybe remove some of the legal jargon of things.
Yeah, hopefully they'll do that with the referendums too, so you can actually understand which means which. Okay.
I know a
and
senator
then-
that would be very happy with that sentiment as well.
Okay, and then it says, so we are doing the new poll books before we've picked the voting system. We're still doing that, and
Yes.
that's okay to do. We're good with that. Okay.
Yes. So I mean, it's moving the timeline along here, but yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay. And then also the new voter registration system that was cut. Explain that real quickly.
So they it just delayed a little bit of the initial prep work. We had started wanting to assemble a project team for it, and it was cut at this point here. It was something that I opposed for cutting, but that was what DLS's recommendations was to the General Assembly. I think that with everything going on and the need for a new voting registration system is paramount, and I feel very confident on its restoration. We're going to probably ask for an over the target or a deficiency to start that program.
And would we be consolidating things, or what would we be doing? And can you send me something on that too?
Sure. I mean, it's just basically upgrading the technology that is currently used for.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I hadn't seen too much on that.
It's MD voters and then just upgrading it to modern systems here.
Upgrade MD voters. Okay. All right. And the ballot duplication, so you're talking about when we duplicate the ballots that come in that we have to handwrite?
Yes.
And then I
right.
guess one of the counties was running them through the machine and letting the machine do it or something?
So basically what we're looking for to see is, so this is, web delivery ballots. They come back
Right.
and they're on a regular piece of paper here. So we're
Right.
looking to see if new technology is out there that would help either facilitate, that is certified and secure for, lack of maybe, they have new ways of duplicating it in a faster method out there. So we're doing our due diligence out there to see what
Okay,
new
cool.
technology exists, to see if there's new scanners that can take this, or if there's new processes that can work within our systems.
And it's smart to look for ideas when we've got, time issues with a lot of those.
And
And
this
then-
is solely based on, request for information, correct?
Yes, this
It's
is
no
just an
dollars.
information
All right,
request.
and Member Butler, no disrespect, I do have Member Weissman's hand here up for a while. If you could just table your questions for 1 second. I appreciate that. If there are any questions that you have that could be discussed offline with the administrator, I greatly appreciate it. With that, Member Weissman,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if Ms. Butler has more questions, I'm fine waiting.
not a
wanna-
problem.
Oh, no,
We can
I
can
just
come
want to
back.
check it. Is Eric still at 50% was my question. That was it.
Eric just also just recently got a new member. It is Hawaii just came on board. So
What was
Yeah.
it?
I think a site visit to Hawaii to have a conversation with them about how they
I'm
how
in.
they're playing Eric might be a good move.
On your dime would be great. Thank you very much for that offer, Member Weissman.
Thank you for indulging me in all my questions. Thanks.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions, Mr. Demarinis. And to start off, you literally, if memory serves correct, wrote the book on the Electoral College.
Yes.
Which I think I have an autographed copy somewhere at home. I have to look around. But it's well worth it. But to Ms. Butler's question, I just want to clarify, you weren't there advocating for the law that Maryland's passed. You were just kind of laying out the full history of Maryland's Electoral College.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right. I was just
I
because
just
it was a
understand.
historical our for the 250. So I was kind of like going, oh, this is our role. We started from the creation, and now we're moving forward with it.
Awesome. Thanks. I want to go to public financing for a minute. I just want to be clear. We had a conversation a couple months ago about some of the counties that had passed public financing legislation, but hadn't reached out to us to help create their program. And they had candidates in the jurisdictions who were filing in regular accounts to be public finance account. Like, can you just kind of catch me up as to where we landed with everything?
So yeah, we now have Kevin. He's our public financing specialist in our. So he's.
It's a great pick.
Right. So we have a dedicated person to just go through all those 5 programs so that I don't have to keep it all in my head, or Alan doesn't have to keep it in my head all the time there. And he has worked closely with the counties to make sure that they're up to speed on that and getting their summary guides, and then starting to work with, I would say, the counties to make sure that they understand how to file and candidates. So we made the correction in the one in Anne Arundel County to make sure that that person is correct. And now that the season is starting to pick up a little bit more, we're working closely with Baltimore County because there's some interest there, as well as in Howard again. Montgomery has already been tried and true a few times. They know exactly what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Prince George's right now, out of all that, is I would say there hasn't been many inquiries there. I think that they're still working on the funding aspects of things.
Gotcha. The other question I have, not a surprise to you, you call me out, is on Chris. How confident do you feel about this November 2025 date?
I'm very confident. I like our new vendor. They have been very eager and ready to hit the ground running. They have a successful track record of this conversion. They, so they know the system from other people that were a part of the team. They know the foundation of it to help with move for this transition from our current system, the existing system, into their new system. This is not something that they haven't done before. And so, yes, I'm very confident in it. But my job is also to worry. So as I always said, so I always I am quietly confident and believe in it. But until all it's moved over and all 2,000 committees have started to look at it and see and making sure that every piece of data has been moved over there. That I'm not popping any corks at this point here. But yes, I'm very confident.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mariners. Thank you, Mr.
No problem. Thank you. And Jared, we'll be getting updates monthly on that initiative, of course. All right. Member Butler, do you have any further questions?
No, I'm good. I just put it into the
Okay.
messages for
All right.
Derek.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the administrator's report? All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Dan Corbin, our Assistant Attorney General's report. Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Can everybody hear me? I want to make sure this mic is working.
Yes.
Okay, great. Another thankfully sort of even keel Assistant Attorney General's report this month with some good news on it. So we'll start with Sullivan v. Summers. This was the MVRA case in which the Federal District Court ruled that SBE's COMAR regulation defining electoral purpose was preempted by the MVRA. Per the court's order, OAG on behalf of the state board filed a joint status report with the plaintiffs on March 28th, which essentially said, you have decided the case for our purposes. We don't need any more decisions. There were other counts in the case about the First Amendment and about administrative law. And the parties filed a report to the court saying, we don't need you to rule on those. Your ruling on the NVRA disposes of the case for our purposes. And the parties jointly asked for those counts to be dismissed. We're just waiting for the court to dismiss those counts to kind of wrap the case up and finish everything up. Next on the list is De La Roca v. Lee. This is the Federal District Court case in which a registered voter here in Maryland is challenging the validity of the mail-in program, that mail-in balloting generally. OAG filed a motion to dismiss on behalf of both the state board, and really it's Chairperson Summers, who is the named defendant, although in his official capacity as chair of SBE, and on behalf of Secretary Lee. OAG is also representing Secretary Lee, who is Maryland Secretary of State. The Postmaster General followed our motion to dismiss and filed its own motion to dismiss on April 11th. The plaintiffs have asked and received permission to respond to that motion to dismiss by May 9th. Plaintiffs have already responded to OAG's motion to dismiss, so that's just pending. We're waiting for plaintiffs to respond to the Postmaster General motion to dismiss, and then we expect the court to rule on both pending motions. The third case, Golden v. Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. This was the challenge in Baltimore City Circuit Court seeking declaratory judgment, seeking a judgment to determine if a potential ballot question for the 2026 ballot in Baltimore City was lawful. OAG, on behalf of both the State Board of Elections and the City Board, and I'll thank my colleague Thomas Chapman, who is the Assistant Attorney General who represents the City Board for this effort, because he undertook it in my absence, filed a motion to dismiss, essentially asserting that while we are honored to be in the case, there is no ballot question yet. We aren't appropriate defendants for the case. We don't really have anything to say about this case until there's a completed petition and a question. And 6 days later, on April 10th, the plaintiffs essentially agreed and voluntarily dismissed us from the case. So the case is ongoing, but it does not involve either the State Board or the City Board. The only remaining defendant is the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. The last case is actually not one that SBE is involved with. It's not SBE litigation, but it is litigation that SBE is both concerned about, and it's OAG's litigation, so I'm happy to update the board about it. That's California v. Trump. It is a civil complaint filed in the federal district court in Massachusetts on behalf of California and 18 other states, including Maryland, alleging that the recent executive order issued by President Trump about elections, about documentary proof of citizenship and election day deadlines is unconstitutional and illegal, and seeks to have it declared as such. The complaint was filed at the beginning of April, and since then, on April 23rd, DOJ, who is representing President Trump and a number of named other government officials, moved to consolidate the lawsuit, because this lawsuit that was filed in Massachusetts was on behalf of 19 states. There was a second set of lawsuits, 3 other lawsuits, all filed in the federal district court in the District of Columbia on behalf of various organizations, the League of Women Voters, the Democratic National Committee, and other advocacy organizations. The DOJ moved to consolidate the cases, have the state case in Massachusetts consolidated with the DC case. And right now that's pending before the court. The states will respond to that motion to consolidate in due time. But one complicating factor now is that in the DC case, those plaintiffs moved for a preliminary injunction to stop the effect of the executive order. And they succeeded in part last week. The federal district court granted the preliminary injunction, ruling that specifically the portion that related to documentary proof of citizenship and requiring the EAC to require documentary proof of citizenship on the common federal form was that the plaintiffs were likely to succeed in showing that it was unconstitutional, and that otherwise allowing it to move forward would irreparably harm those organizations. And so the district court in DC granted an injunction stopping that provision. It declined to grant an injunction on the provisions relating to election day and the election day deadline, saying specifically that the parties in the DC case were suffering certain injuries, but the injuries related to those provisions were ones suffered by states. And so now essentially it's shifting it to have that decision made in our lawsuit in the district for Massachusetts. And that is the current litigation efforts on behalf of, or that relate to the board. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Dan, for that robust report.
Of course.
Any questions, concerns, issues? Points of clarification? Member Butler.
So this is the owner's documentary proof of citizenship. That's what they're talking about.
In the California v. Trump case?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So they're upset about trying to see that people have citizenship before they vote in our country.
No, that's not why they're upset. They're upset because the executive order requires things that are illegal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you, Member Butler. Moving on, I saw your hand, Member Weissman. Are you good? All right, great. Thank you very much, Dan. And moving on to our next able administrative assistant director, candidacy and campaign, Alan Norfleet, to walk us through our Title 13, Title 14, numbers 7 through 10, Title 13, Title 14, contract disclosure waiver requests and confidentiality requests. And we await your recommendation to proceed.
And I guess I'll defer to you, Chairman Summers. We have March and April. They're in separate packets. I don't know if you want to vote on March and April Title 13 together. I don't know if that's allowable.
I think we can combine. Dan, are you? Yeah, Jared. Dan, we're good to go.
You want to combine the Title 13 and 14 waivers?
No. I have 2 months
No,
of
not
Title
combined.
13.
13.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
do the waiver separately.
Okay,
Yes.
definitely do that. Okay,
Okay.
well, I'll first go over the March Title 13. We have
you.
12 approvals and 6 denials. And for April Title 13, we have a lot. Sorry for all the reading. 35 approvals and 5 denials. And if
right.
anybody has any questions.
And let's take these in parts, folks. Let's deal with March first, so
Okay.
that we don't convolute anyone or Alan.
Mr. Chair, can I just
questions.
chime in for a second?
Yeah, is this on?
Yeah, Alan's,
The March or
no, the mark,
overall?
what we're about to vote on.
Or well, there hasn't been a motion, but
Okay.
but go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
I was
your
just,
question for Alan.
just for anybody who's watching and listening, just a brief clarification as to what these are and when we say we approve, what does that mean? And when we reject, what it means as well, just so there's a public face to what we're doing, that's all.
So Title 13, that's our largest community filers. That's like candidate committees.
1 second, Alan,
You're
your volume has went down significantly, but
Oh.
also indicate that Title 13, Title 14 waiver information is also accessible via the SBA website as
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. So it's Title 13, the community candidate committees, parties, PACs, they request the board to either remove or cut in half, reduce their penalties to the board or to their fines. So they're seeking relief, and we take life circumstances in certain, in certain circumstances, people go to the hospital, situations happen, life happens, and this is the board's ability to reduce their fines.
And the violations being like late filers or people that don't file. In other words, not filing properly their campaign finance reports.
They have to file the report before they can put a waiver before the board. So once you approve these waivers, we will send them notification from the board that their fees have went down or were removed. We'll update our system, and those violations will reflect what the board decides.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Member Weissman.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chair and Mr. Norfleet, Mr. Ramirez, I noticed in several of these, and I apologize if I mispronounce her name, folks were giving a shout out to Lisa Hansuk, just for the work she was doing and how helpful she was. And I wanted to lift that up and just say thank you to her for representing the board so well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the floor is open for a motion, or the chair is open for a motion to accept the administrative recommendation for Title 13 March.
So moved.
All right, it's been properly moved by Member Butler. Is there a second?
Second.
And so moved. Member Weissman has properly seconded. All those in favor by indicating aye, please
Aye.
do.
Aye.
I,
Thank you very much. All opposed? Hearing none, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, the chair is open for a motion for Title 13 April recommendations
So moved.
or request.
Second.
It has been properly moved by Member Weissman, properly seconded by members Jackson Stanley. Thank you all so very much. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote aye.
Aye.
I,
All right, any opposed? No opposed. It is unanimously approved. Thank you very much, Alan. Moving on to Title 14.
Title 14, that is our business and nonprofits that file with us. They either file with us due to hiring a lobbyist in the General Assembly, or they have contracts with the state more than 200,000. So it's the same idea. They're seeking relief for late fees with us, and they provide extenuating circumstances for that. And for March, I had 8 denials and no approvals.
And is that for only March, right? Do you have April as well?
Yes.
Or is it
Yeah, I can go ahead and present
Okay.
April. So for April, we had, we granted for 2 and we denied for 5. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right. Hearing none, seeing none. The chair is open for a motion to accept the recommendation for March Title
So moved.
14 request. So move, Member Butler. Is there a
Second.
second? It's properly seconded by Member Weissman. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. Thank you all very much. It is approved unanimously. And now the chair is open for a motion for Title 14 April request.
So moved.
It's been properly moved by Member Weissman. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Alan. And moving on, and please give to the vice chair's point, a description of our contract disclosure waiver request being presented.
Sure. So these aren't every month, but businesses that have contracts with the state, they do have the ability to seek a waiver about disclosing all the details of their contract with the state. And in the memo, it goes through 14104C2. There's 3 reasons that they can seek relief. Burdensome, it's burdensome to the company. There's no public interest, or there's not a public interest. So if they meet these 3 criteria, the board can grant their ability to not disclose all the details of their contract. And I have 2 to present: Stone Peak Core Fund Advisors and Verizon. And if you have any questions.
And what is your recommendation?
Oh, that we approve them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Member Butler.
So my question is, so the Stone Peak was pretty, I could understand that one pretty well. The Verizon is dated like from 2015. What am I missing here?
I believe they're recycling their previous
Is that what they're doing? Okay.
requests. Yes, and I guess they could say that the reasons have not changed for their contracts.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, but I'm going 2015. Why is this so different than the Stone Peak? And then the last section, was that just the law that they're basing this on? The whole last section of documents we got? Okay,
Yes,
great. Thank you.
correct. Mhm.
Right, you figured that they could have just updated the date a little bit,
You would
I
think.
agree. I agree.
right?
I'll-
Some internal staff attorney should have been able to change the date.
I'll recommend that next time, Jared.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you, Member Butler. Any further questions, concerns? For Alan? Hearing none, the chair is open for a motion to accept the recommendation of the administrator.
So moved.
Is there it was moved properly by Member Weissman. Is there a second? Properly
Second.
seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. The recommendation carries all unanimously. Thank you very much. And now moving on, Alan, again, seems like we have further, or not so frequent, confidentiality requests.
And just so for individuals that live in the state of Maryland that would like to be confidential voters, there is the process to seek through the board that ability. And this is obviously not publicly available. Only the board members have this request. So it's not, you won't see it on our website.
Thank you very much. And how many are you recommending? How many?
It's just one.
One. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. With that being said, the chair is open for a motion to accept the recommendation from administrator regarding.
I'm sorry, what was the
confidentiality request.
recommendation, Mr. Chair?
It's a confidentiality request. The recommendation is only one that has been put forward.
To grant it, is that correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. It's been properly moved by Member Weissman, seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? The motion carries for approval and and the vote was unanimous. Thank you very much, Alan. Greatly appreciate your service. And moving on, now we are at topic number 11, proposed regulations. Now, these are all proposed regulations. This is at their initial state. They have not gone out for public comment, correct? All right, so these are, and we have Melissa here, another able administrator, assistant deputy of election. And election law. So thank you very much for presenting these regulations today, as I understand it. Now, with that being said, Melissa, do you mind? Because we have some in chunks here. We have election, we have so I'll put to the members, are we open to voting on each of these and then in the batches collectively to move them forward, or are we going to wait until the end of each of Melissa's report out on each of them?
Mr.
we
Chair,
gonna
the vote today is
on
to
each one as
move
we
it
go?
forward to public. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is the vote today to
Yes,
move
sir.
it forward for publication?
For public
Yes.
comment. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So it's not for approval, it's just to move it forward.
It's
Correct.
both.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So it won't, if we don't approve it, it's held back. We may need to amend, modify, edit if necessary. But if not, we will present it forward as approved for public comment and consideration, and it comes back almost like a first and second reader. But and then it will be final when it comes back after public comment.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yes.
All right. You're welcome. With that being said, do you want to do so we can vote on each one as we go, or we can come back and take them collectively? This is a question I'm asking to the members.
I would like to ask a question about one of the very last ones. So if we went through them, we could just ask a question at the end and then move forward with all. I'm fine with that.
It might make sense, Chair Summers, I'm not sure if you noticed, they're in a little bit of different order. I put them in numerical order on the
Right.
agenda, but I'm going to present them a little bit out of order because conceptually
Oh, okay.
Good.
they go together. So it might make sense, unless someone opposes, to go through all of them and either vote on them individually using the list that you have, or just vote on all of them together and withhold anything that you might have a problem or issue you want to address.
Okay, so we can hold to the end of the presentation, going through each one of them and then take them collectively as approve or not, and then hold any one that you may have questions or comments about. All right. After the presentation.
Sure.
Okay. Melissa.
Sorry,
it is
I
your
should
show,
have
because I
led with
thought
that.
you were
I
going to be going through them
apologize.
individually, but no problem. No problem. But
I'd be
we have a
jumping
clear,
all over the
way of-
place. So hopefully it makes a little bit more sense
uh,
and streamlines it in the way that they're in the long document that you have that actually lists the proposed text. They're grouped conceptually. So we'll go with that document in order. The first ones pertain to election judges, and they implement House Bill 700 from last session, which changed the definition of returning election judge, and then also required SBE to create documentation standards via regulation for the documents that can be required at the local board level to onboard an election judge. So those are the first two. That's 3307, 1101, and 03. So I'll just pause after that in case anyone has any questions about the election judge stuff. Okay. And then the next one is 331101. We're going to move into mail-in voting. This one is kind of by itself, and it basically sets the standard for the amount of drop boxes that are required at the local level for each county. We don't currently, the language that we have right now is very vague. This mirrors the language that we use for early voting centers in setting the standard for the minimum number of ballot drop boxes. And then also sets a presumption that the number that has been used in the previous election is meets all of those standards, and that the local board would need to justify any reduction to the state administrator who approves a plan if they in fact propose a reduction. The next is also mail-in voting. This is from legislation, I think it was 2022 or 2023. We were a little bit behind in drafting a reg for it. And it's for mail-in ballots for UOCAVA voters in special elections. The law that was passed required that the state board draft regulations to provide notice to overseas voters, which is what A does, and then also provide a way for them to request them. So this regulation, essentially, if it's a vote by mail election, the notice to overseas voters will be by sending them their ballot, because everyone gets a ballot. And if it's not a vote by mail, it will be in major news outlets and social media. And then the ways that we will provide the ballot to the voter mirror the exact same ways that we provide them during a statewide election, because we do make all of that available for special elections as well. The next mail-in reg is 33110306. This codifies a current process. There's a little bit of a hole in our reg in terms of what happens when in our regulatory framework. In terms of what happens when a ballot is returned or an envelope is returned without a ballot in it. So in that situation, you can identify who returned the empty envelope because the voter's name and identifying information are on it. And this sets out the same, relatively same framework as you would to cure a ballot, which is when there's no signature on it, which means that we contact the voter. We let them know that they have returned a envelope without a ballot in it, and give them the opportunity to vote a ballot. Let's see. So that is the end of the mail-in regs. The next is just a reg for recounts. This has come up, I believe, several occasions. Again, it's a gap in our current regulatory framework. As you know, you can request a recount if there are certain standards met. You can also, if the recount is not as a candidate, if the recount is not moving in the direction that you thought it was going to move, you can end that recount because there are obviously costs associated with a recount. And this would allow the requester to end it early, which again has happened. What we don't have is a regulation that says what happens to the results in that situation. And the practice has been that you don't make any changes to the results because there was no official recount of that contest such that you could, change the entire result. So this will codify in regulations that current practice. Okay. Then if there's no questions about recounts, I'm going to move to early voting center designations. This is the long one. And this is, it's implementing our departmental, I want to say 2024, actually Senate Bill 271 of 2024. So what that did was there was a provision in the existing law that says if a local board chooses a location for a polling place, and it's a public building, then the public building has to let them use it. And this brought parity to the choice of early voting centers. So if a local board chooses a public building for an early voting center, they have to let them use it. But it created an appeals process. And the law said, SBE, you need to spell out what that appeals process looks like. And that is what this regulation does. It provides the framework for a hearing first at the local board level, which would be the initial appeal. And then if that is not decided or determined the way that the public building would have it decided, they can appeal to the state board, which is you, and there would be a hearing on that using a very similar framework. There's a ton of details in here. I'm happy to ask or to answer any questions that you guys have about the details. I don't want to go super far in the weeds if you've had the opportunity to read and review it, but I'll definitely pause in case you have any questions or wanted any more detail about the process.
I do have a quick question. I appreciate that. Did
Sure.
someone else have a question? Jim, I wanted to make sure because I can't see.
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. With regards to that, Melissa, the appeals process that has been drafted, does it mirror any other appeals process for any other agency or division? Is there a precedence for our appeals process?
So it is actually new for our, I guess, for our purposes, because I did look in drafting it to mirror our administrative complaint process, which it does very loosely. But because the administrative complaint process comes straight to SBE, we can only kind of mirror that so far. Since it starts at the LBE level, a lot of the same kind of documentary stuff applies, but in terms of where it starts and where it ends, it is a new process for State Board.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
It's not just pulled out of thin air. I do appreciate
No.
sometimes it does require that, but I do appreciate your prudence.
I try not to recreate wheels.
Melissa, it was very well
Okay.
written. Thank you. I thought it was
Oh,
very.
thanks, Diane.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It was a team effort for sure. It was a Google document that was alive and well for quite some time. So I can't take all the credit for it.
All right.
And then the last two are the ones that are really out of order. So that is the implementation of a background check requirement for individuals who, the first regulation pertains to individuals who work with our voting system. And then the second one pertains to individuals who work with our voter registration system. And the background check is something that we currently do for, SBE and LBE employees. And this will really have the practical effect of expanding that to our temporary staff who work with these systems.
And those numbers?
And I'm happy to, I'm sorry, 3310-0130 and 3305-0104.
I really
And again,
appreciate
happy to
that.
take any questions. Yep.
All right. Any questions, folks? Very thoroughly presented. Thank you very much, Melissa. So with that being said, the chair is open for a motion to accept all of the proposed reads based on the recommendations of the Assistant Deputy Director of SBE. I mean, of election, sorry, 'cause this is of the administration.
Question, the 3313, the campaign finance stuff, what is that? Did we talk about those yet?
No, they'll be next.
That'll be net. Okay, all right, then I'm good. Okay, fine.
We were, okay, so can we, or have we gotten through A through J? Have you done the 3317-0801?
Let me check and make
Early
sure.
voting?
So,
I don't know if
A-
you touched on early voting.
Yes, I did.
Appeal, that's the one we just talked
yes,
about.
Yep. A through J are all
Alrighty.
done.
Okay, so folks, if we can, if the chair is open for a motion for 3301 per the agenda, 33.05.01.04 through 33.17.08.01-10. for approval of the proposed regulations?
So moved, I approve all of them.
Second.
Oh, thank you. It was properly approved, motioned by Member Butler, seconded by Member Weissman. I appreciate that. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous vote to accept the recommendations of the proposed regulations. Thank you very much, Melissa. And finally, we will be looking at 33 campaign finance regulations 33.13.06.01. This is for the record 33.13.06.03, 33.13.06.04, 33.13.06.05. Thank you very much. If you could brief on each of those. Oh, that would be Alan. Okay. We can't hear you, Alan, at all. We would love to.
So sorry.
There we go. All right, no problem.
I guess I have to warm up. My computer warms up. Apologies.
Yeah, it took us a little delay.
I'll start with 33.13.06.01. This is just adding a definition for third-party payment processors. And again, this is like PayPal. Committees and unions, they're using third-party processors to collect credit card contributions. So this is creating that definition. 33.13.06.03. This is kind of explaining what a third-party payment processor is and does, and also putting the rule 7 days of sweeping that the funds out of the third-party payment processor to your financial institution. So that wasn't there. We're adding that. 33.13.06.04. This is better defining the role of the chairperson for the committees. You'll see we're recommending some changes in the language. Instead of make, authorize, and make to approve. And those are the changes that we're making in that section. 33.13.06.05. That is in the prohibition section, just clarifying that third-party payment processors are not a financial institution. So feel free to, if you have any questions about these changes.
I believe the one thing is, I just wanted to mention that
Sure.
Member Weissman had sent them around, and I apologize that they didn't have the updated on this one here. Alan,
Okay. Sure.
gave me the updates from Member Weissman to include.
Oh,
this.
yes.
So we had sent them around earlier, so this wasn't updated. It seems this is the wrong version that is being that you put out there.
Okay.
So I guess the thing is right now, one, if they were sent around to the board beforehand for everything, let me see if Dan, do you mind going through them while I look for them really fast?
Yeah, the only other difference in the version, the overall kind of intent here that Alan was drafting was using online third-party payment processors to park campaign money, right? The state board is essentially taking the position regulatorily that individuals, candidates can't do that, and that's correct. The law actually says campaign money has to be kept in a campaign finance account, and a third-party payment processor like PayPal is not a financial institution that is otherwise subject to regulation under state and federal law, and a place where we can get necessary records from if we need to for a campaign finance investigation. The changes from what you're looking at, because what you're looking at is not that far off. The definition for third-party payment processor, the financial institutions article, I believe that's where there's a definition already in state law for what a third-party payment processor is. SBE is not creating this term or trying to invent a wheel here. It is adopting what state law has already established. And I think the only other change, I think that's the primary change. I don't think there is any other major amendments to what you have in front of you. Just looking briefly.
Yes, so it says, yes, so that was it. So it's 33-13-06-01 is to change the definition of third-party payment processor to has meaning stated in financial institution article 1-101 X2 II2. I can,
Yeah, and if
I'll
you
put
give me a
that-
moment, I'll try to post that here so that you actually have that definition.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair? Can
Floor
we
is yours.
just,
I
can we
know
just
that
postpone this?
Diane, are you talking about all of them or just the
No,
last?
just this one. Can we postpone it just to the end of, get through the rest of the regulations, get through the policies, and then we can come back to this. But hopefully by then we could just share around the updated regulation instead of kind of doing it here. Is that
So
is that
it looks
feasible?
like there's, well, I have member Butler who may shed some light, but hold 1 second. It's showing that, or in the comment, they're referencing 33.13.06.01. And are we dealing with 33.13.06.05? I just need clarification on which one we're referencing here, because it looks like both of them are in cahoots.
no,
01
it's
and
the
05.
definition. So 05 is the third-party processor
Okay.
provision.
All right.
It's the definition that is being amended to cite to the correct one. So right now, in 33-13-06-01, there is a definition in there that says has meaning as an online service in which disbursements or receipts are made through an online service account rather than one's own financial institution. Instead of that definition, it is what I put in the chat there, which is that it has meaning stated in financial institution article 1-101 X2 II2. That's the so that we're now consistent with using the same terminology across all boundaries for Maryland.
Right, and the specific financial institutions article site, what it's referring to, and part of the problem we were running into is that some third-party service processors can be part of financial institutions, and so you can't say you can't use this financial institution even though they have a third-party processor arm. The citation that we have here, a third-party service provider means a person who performs activities relating to financial services on behalf of a regulated entity for that entity's customers, and includes a person who provides activities supporting financial services, including funds transfers. That's the
Okay, 'cause
specific definition we're talking about.
Yes, and is it, okay. That's still being meted out. Because it looks like Member Weissman still has a question or concern, but Member Butler has shown extreme patience with her hand up related to this. So Member Butler.
My question is after 7 days, what happens to the money? Is it returned to the person that put it in there? So if it says you need to take, so if I donate to somebody's campaign and then it says within 7 days, they're supposed to take that and put it into their campaign account so that so the state can, watch over what's happening with it. If they don't do that in 7 days, what happens to the monies that are in, say, the PayPal account?
Prosecutor then can go after them because it was something that the state. So this is occurring where this regulation, I think, is vital because of past practices where people forget about these third-party processors and they leave it there, right? By having this deadline here, that if they don't move it over into the account, into their financial institution, then we would, a former delegate had used one of the accounts for personal purposes. And so now this gives the state prosecutor another tool in an enforcement action, making sure that everyone goes into their financial institution. And that this clarifies that if you don't move it over there, that the treasurer could be, and the campaign could be liable for not moving over the funds in a timely manner. They would then be able to be prosecuted for it. We would not, of course, it's not going to get rid of the funds because they were legally received, but
Yeah.
it's just that they haven't made to the ultimate destination, which is to go into a financial institution, which is why when we do the audits of these accounts, that's where all the records are. Additionally, when they do their bank balances, a lot of the times they forget about that. So now by putting the 7 days in here, we can then tell all the committees that this is something that they would want to comply with, make sure that they have automatically transfer it into your account, and not keep it there and not make expenditures out of that account, because that's where, problems can occur for these committees. And,
Thank you.
and other serious issues as well.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Thank you, Member Butler. Member Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm all for this regulation. I think it's needed and appreciate making that change. I would just request before we vote on it, the actual regulation that we will be voting on is provided to the members and put on the public site just to stay consistent with. And so I just request that we postpone the vote on this regulation just till later in the meeting so it can be updated and sent around, and then take the vote before we adjourn today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I don't have a problem with that initially. Also, I had a question though, Alan, and Jared or Dan, in regards to third party. And when you file for candidacy or when you're filing your campaign finance report, do you have to indicate that your campaign has a third party vendor account? Is using a third, you don't have to claim that that the campaign is even using a third party vendor to receive funds. So how do you know when the money goes in versus when it is put out? If they have to declare that they have a third party, they're using a third party vendor processor to receive campaign funds that is attached to the campaign. I think that's one way that they have to report it to you so that you are aware that their campaign is using a third party vendor for fundraising or to receive campaign dollars. And then you may be able to account for their timeline or time frame as to when they submit it to their fiduciary or their bank account. Because right
So-
now we have no way of tracking.
We don't know that they have these accounts. It's a legal way of getting into it. By law, they have to put everything into their bank account. I think when the new systems here, as we upgrade it, it's one of these things that we are going to ask questions before that they file, just being like, do you have any third-party processors to help with this, so that they can affirm at that point there before filing a report, and remind them that the report's there. Have you made sure that, kind of like you kind of like little check marks, reminders of like, have you moved all your money over from your third party processors? Make sure, before filing this report. And,
Right. If
hopefully
those-
these committees will.
Yeah, I just don't want those third party processes to be personal. So if they're not aligned with the campaign, it's outside of the campaign process, or campaign financing rules and regulations for the candidate, as you know, as we know. And we all have to be complicit with that if whomever is running for office, just even that their website has to say on behalf of and have that standard. So does that third party vendor, just like your bank account, have to be associated with the campaign opposed to your personal information? Should it have all your campaign information attached to that third party vendor portal for accessing those funds? Because then when they shut down the campaign, that needs to be shut down as well.
That's a very good
Right
question.
now, we have no way of tracking it. So is it possible we can hold that reg for further discussion and remediation? Because I'm thinking to remedy this, how do we hold them to account and based on the date that the third party vendor was created for their campaign? That's one. When did that money go in and when did it go out? Meaning that they have to issue a report from their third party vendor if they can pull one associated with the campaign finance.
I would say having additional reports is something that we would have to look at legally to ask for. This one here is something that we can do, and I think that this is kind of the first step in the process. So I think that what Member Weissman was fine. I was fine with the idea that we can hold this so that they can make sure that the public is aware of the slight change that I've put in the chat to change the definition. But I still think that we need to move forward with these regs as, because we can always add on to more later once we get whether or not we can require additional reporting requirements on a committee.
Right. And it may not even be associated with this particular reg, but it brings up the fact that we may need further regulation to define third party vendor, the use of a campaign use of a third party vendor for to collect contributions and or finances for your campaign. All right. Thank you very much. We'll hold until, I guess we'll push it to about the point of new business. Fine. All right. Member
I
Butler.
agree with you. I think there's more work to be done on this, just FYI. Thank you.
I think I would, yes, I think
Yeah.
it just created another topic and not necessarily, but I appreciate that, but I think it's tangential, but not direct. That we will work on some things there because it brings up another caveat to campaign finance. All right. Thank you all very much. And with that, the chair will move since we're holding, let's look at the chair's open to a motion to accept the recommendations put forward by the administrator at 33.13.06.01, 33.13.06.03, 33.13.06.04. Is there a motion to accept the recommendations of these provisions? So move, Member Jackson Stanley. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
It's been properly seconded by the Vice Chair, Member Shalleck. All those in favor of
Sorry,
the
Mr.
recommendation?
Chair. I thought we were postponing this until later in the meeting.
We're postponing the last.
I thought it was
regulation.
01 that has the definition that we're concerned.
That's what I was asking earlier. You cited 05 and now it is 01 that we're referencing, or
Can-
05?
01 is the only one that needed to be changed. The others were fine.
So
I think
05
we
is
wanna hold
good.
all of them
So
because we-
05 we're good with.
Why don't we just hold this whole thing until the end, if that's okay?
I
Because
agree.
I'm
I
looking
thought
at
we
the
were,
definition that is.
I agree. Let's wait for all of them. I withdraw my second or did I make the motion? I
Not a
withdraw the
problem.
motion
Not a
because
problem.
I thought we were also voting
So-
on 1, 3, 4.
So we have a second. We have a second
Yeah.
on the motion. We can vote to accept or we can vote to
Okay.
not. But it sounds like the second was withdrawn. And therefore we can hold
Okay.
if there are no issues with the motioner, Vice Chair.
No,
Shalleck.
no, I agree with Vicky.
All right, thank you. All right, well, if that is the case, based on the agenda, we have two other proposals under policies. Number 12, line management voter assistant policy. And I think the administrator will be presenting these, or if not, he will direct.
No problem. So the first one here is about line management for voters who need assistance. And this is I just want to say, this is something that the local boards have kind of implemented. But I wanted to make this policy from the state board so that we could hold every local board accountable to this, and also make it known then publicly about our line management for voters who need assistance here. So the policy then is, if when the local board, when the local director is determining locations for early voting centers and polling places, that they should determine whether the location can provide a seating area for elderly or disabled voters in case of long lines, and that this would be a factor in choosing the location, and that the election director shall train judges to accommodate elderly and disabled voters upon request for assistance if long lines occur. And if a voter voluntarily informs the election judge that they are elderly, disabled, or otherwise unable to stand for a long period of times, that the election judge then shall place a placeholder card for the voter, in their line, and that then they would have the ability to sit down while the placeholder reaches throughout the voting process. And then once they're up next in line, the voter will be able to stand in line and then vote their turn. So this kind of basically makes it more public, our line management policy here for elderly and disabled voters, or any individual who is unable to basically stand for long periods of time.
All right, any questions or concerns? Member Butler?
I have a comment that in Howard County, we use the cards very effectively, and it really does work. And then, when I went to the state level, I went to other counties, and I could see some of the locations where, they had people trying to get up the stairs, and then they really didn't have a spot for them to sit down. And I think if they had just rearranged the room differently, they could have done that. And I think it's really important, especially because a lot of these rooms, we started making bigger and bigger rooms for COVID, and I think we need to move them back down into smaller spaces when we can, because I mean, like at Dunlop, we're still walking from the cafeteria all the way back to the gym, and it's just very difficult on the handicap. And I've been at this for a while, so I think that looking at this and codifying it, it's really important for people to think about it. You don't think about it until you are disabled or dealing with a disabled person. Because with my husband, when he couldn't see, I had to take him around different places, and it really makes a big difference when they're looking at this. So I think it's a great thing, and thank you for putting it in there.
Thank you. The chair will open thank you for the comment, the floor for a motion. Member Weissman? So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Properly seconded.
I'll
Member
second it,
Butler?
Mr. Chair. Okay.
Member Butler, properly seconded. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. All opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, it moves forward. Thank you very much. The policy is approved unanimously. Second policy is the obituary policy. Mr. Administrator? Demarais?
Yes.
Think,
Yes.
or did you want me to do it, Jared, or
Go-
did
go
you want to
for
do it?
Go for it.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Melissa.
sure, of course. This might look a little bit familiar to the board. We created this policy just a few months ago, but have since gotten some feedback from the local boards that they needed just some more specification in the policy that we had put out. So we clarified it a bit. I think the most significant change from the last iteration of the policy is that we have made it clear that when anyone presents an obituary to a local board, that the election director should move forward with sending a notice to the next of kin. There was just some questions about whether the next of kin had to bring the obituary, or if it was any source at all. And so we clarified for that. And I think also important to note is that the language was permissive before, it is obligatory now. So once they get that paper obituary, we again have, put out the sources that they can use for an obituary, then the election director is then legally obligated to send that notice. And when the notice comes back signed from the next of kin, that voter is canceled. And I'm happy to answer any questions about either the language in this one or any other, information about the change, but that's the Cliff Notes version.
Any questions or concerns that can be directed at this time? Pursuant to the proposed policy change, Member Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Dorsey, I appreciate it. I had a good conversation with Ms. Berry about this a couple weeks ago. I feel like we are in a very difficult place with this one, right? Like this is an incredibly difficult needle to thread. And, you have these websites pop up all the time that will just have, I mean, it's the, I don't know what you would call whatever the opposite of the golden age is, but that of the internet right now, where misinformation runs rampant. At the same time, we have a frankly collapsing media ecosystem where they used to be the host of the obituaries and are less so now. I pulled up as the meeting was starting. My grandmother passed away close to 20 years ago. The only place you can access her obituary now is legacy.com, and that pulled from the Baltimore Sun, right, where her obituary was posted. Can you just explain to me a bit more why we've kind of made the delineation we have, and kind of and the communication that we've had with the local boards on this?
Sure, and that's a question that came in from the locals as well. And I think that first and foremost, the reason that we drew the line is that we had to draw it somewhere, and that the information that we were getting back from the research that we did is, while you have a very trustworthy example of legacy.com, not everything on legacy.com has that same level of credibility, right? And so I think we're trying to strike a balance here, right? Like we are lowering the bar for what we will take in terms of triggering the letter, but then also making sure that that letter has to come back with a signature. And I think that this is actually more expansive than where we started, right? Initially, where we started you had to have a paper obituary. We weren't even clear that you could use an internet source. So I think once legacy.com and those types of things, if and when they become a more vetted and consistently reliable source, that it would again be a fluid policy that we could revisit. But right now, everything that we've gotten back is that it's just not consistent enough to trigger that letter. And there are also, the second part being is there are also a ton of ways to make sure that deceased voters are removed from lists, right? Obituaries is once very small portion of the process. It can be done from a signed note from a next of kin. We generally get the information from DHMH. It would be very rare that we don't. It's extremely corner cases that something doesn't come through from DHMH. And we have worked with DHMH to get older information, which was one of the areas that we had struggled to get from them before, and get retro files. So, and then again, from Eric, they provide SSA, that type of thing. And obituaries, while important, are just, again, like a very, very small portion of where we get our data.
Dude, that's really, really helpful. Thank you. So my grandmother's been deceased 19 years. She's not a registered voter of Maryland. She lived in Maryland, but not a registered voter now. So if for some reason she was, my mother could send a note to SB, but also we would have been notified by DHMH or MDH, showing my age here.
Yeah, you're right.
would have been notified in some other. Do you have an idea how many like what percentage of our notifications come through obituaries?
I don't. I could certainly look into it for you. I know the
I'm
vast
not gonna hold
majority
you
of
to the
our
exact number. I'm kind of
notifications.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. I can find out for you.
And then obviously folks who pass away outside of Maryland don't have notification through MDH, but those.
So we do. We have
Oh.
actually just recently, yes, we have recently updated our agreement with Vital Statistics. I think for quite a while they had issues getting that data and they were limited with that data when they got it. However, as of, I want to say mid last year, we updated our data use agreement and we get all the other states send them information of Maryland residents who pass away in their states, and then they send that to us. So it does take a little bit longer because it's a two-phase process. It only comes monthly, et cetera. But we have updated our agreement to provide that to the local boards. And we've also updated it to get out-of-state voters who pass away in state, because a lot of times they would list out of state, but they were actually a Maryland resident. So we weren't getting them. And so we've, again, enhanced our data that we're getting from MDH in that regard as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Member Weissman. Thank you very much. We have another, Melissa, we have another question from Member Butler.
And Melissa, the death certificates and whatever, you already get that, right? Okay. It's because my aunt just passed away in Georgia, but she was in Florida before, and I'm trying to negotiate all of this stuff. But and even the death certificate, it's been over a month and I can't even get that. But you do deal with those first, and this was kind of an addendum onto that, correct? All right, great, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I can come back with numbers for you, but this is
I
really
don't
just
know.
that
Yeah.
it's a very small percentage of how we cancel and do our list maintenance. Useful, absolutely.
It is useful, yeah, good. Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any further questions, concerns? All right, hearing none, the chair is open for a motion to accept the recommendation. It has been properly moved by Member Butler. Is there a
Second.
second?
Jackson Stanley.
Properly seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. Thank you very much. And all those in favor, please indicate by voice vote aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none. I heard members approve the policy. So the ayes have it. So moved. Yes, Member Weissman.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mr. Chair. And I voted aye on that one. I think this is a great step forward. I do want to flag for Mr. Demarinis and Ms. Dorsey, if we can continue to keep an eye on this and figure out ways to work with the locals and continue to provide as great a latitude as possible while not creating a system where anybody erroneously kicks off. I think there are more ideas coming from locals about more ways to refine this, and I just ask you to continue to be open to those conversations as we move forward.
Yes, and I think that's why we did this as a policy rather than as a regulation, because it's easy to be more flexible with policies than anything else, right? Regulations, you got to go through all the process.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's kind of why, just to your point, this is why we did it this way rather than that. So yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Demarinis. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Thank you all very much for your patience and your time. And thank you, Administrator Demarinis, for your response. With that, we are moving on now with regards to bringing back what we held, pursuant to points of clarification for the campaign finance provisions. The campaign finance definition 33.13.06.01. I still have questions all the way through 0.05. Yes, I'm asking, and I'll ask the members for a little more time, and that at the chair's discretion to hold these, because I'm not clear on, it- as it relates to the limitation on campaign finances, limits. If this is coming from personal accounts, if these campaigners, the campaigns, so the third party vendors are not personal, are
No.
not set up under the personal
No,
account.
none of this.
They're set up under what?
So. this-
Well, the reason I ask that is because if a campaign, hello, 1 second. If a campaign institutes a third party, like a Cash App for you to send or PayPal, I don't know the address. I don't know how that's set up. If it is set up and they are sending a certain amount from that to their campaign finance account, is there a limit on how much they can? Because if that's the case, I can send it various ways. And if I'm sending it a Cash App, I'll just compile and compile and compile. There's no limitation on how much I can transfer from my Cash App or from my PayPal. There's no limit set. I can go endless and I can tell people to just send it there. If there's no tracking mechanism, if there's no account of it, I don't know how, we're not asking for how much did you transfer from this account to this account. And if I'm collecting it this way, it's not my treasurer collecting it. If it's in my treasurer's name, if the Cash App or if the PayPal, if the campaign is attached to this, is it attached to the treasurer or is it attached to the candidate? And that is where we are with regards to some of the information that I think you're trying to get at, I think, in regards to the chair responsibilities defined. And is that through the chair? Is it through the treasurer? Because right now it should be the treasurer who is in receipt of those campaign dollars. Now, it I just have some further questions. So I asked, and it seems that a lot of this is new. And we've moved, on things that are new prior to. And so I'm just wanting to exercise a little more caution with regards to these collective campaign finance bills, uh, dealing with a new term or a new issue concerning third party vendors as it relates to banking information and campaign accounts.
So I guess I can answer those questions. One, this is not new, and it's something that campaigns, it's not your personal account, because you cannot set this up as this is a campaign. The campaign sets up and uses these third-party processors to process online transactions. Like, for example, all the credit cards that they do through their, through their systems, whether it's PayPal or through any other third-party processor to take a credit card transaction. That's how they use right now. The campaign is the one that is liable for this actions. This is current practices, right? And as you talk about limits and using Cash App and all that, as long as they report it, they can take all that money in up to the $6,000 limit. But you have to make sure that you get the name and address of every contributor. This is just taking one little piece of it. All that you've talked about is current practices. What we're doing now is taking the piece here, which is making sure that the campaign moves the money into their campaign account, which is in a financial institution. So this is just filling in the gap that they cannot store or hold the money in these third-party processors to either pay bills or to move money around without it going into their financial institution. This is for auditing purposes here. So this is why it's important to move this over into this scenario here. And the 7 days is just something to give the campaign has to do, and allows the state prosecutor and others for greater enforcement actions here, so that they're not just holding money in accounts that are not being traced.
Right. So it's my understanding that it's not being traced now. It's my understanding that there's no way to hold them to account at this time when the monies come in as to when they go out. You are asking for a 7-day window. I just need more clarity on how we're going to enforce that. What general ledger are we accepting from them as it relates to their PayPal or third-party vendor? I don't know. I mean, is that current practice? Are you are they required to submit third-party ledgers? I mean, ledgers of their third-party vendor account?
So that's what we're looking, that was your question, and to ask for additional, they have to have all the transactions in their, all documents in their account books they have to have. So when you do an audit, yes, they would have to have that as their documents, and that's current practice and current laws. So just like if they went out and bought signs, they have to have a receipt for that, and they have to hold that receipt for 10 years. So, you know, engaging in these companies here, they would have to have their transactions, or if they use Square or anything to that effect, they would have to have those documents for records. Now, they have to keep those records. What they give to us is the campaign finance report. They can't, we are, what is publicly given to us to review is different than all their records internally. Basically, what we can do, which we're going to do in the new system, is ask like, hey, have you moved all your money from third-party processors? Do you have these things? So that we now know if they have it. If there's issues with the campaign and an audit goes in, the audit team asks for all records. That includes third-party processing documentation as well. So this would be something that we would be able to review during that process to see if there was any violations occurring for a referral to the state prosecutor's office. So this is something that it would help the auditors and give more enforcement authority to the state prosecutor and ensure greater compliance with transactions.
Granted, I'm just trying to understand how we account for the 7 days. That has not been made clear at this time.
After the fact, right? So, you know, it's something where if there's an issue with the campaign, we would look at and say, let's take a look at all your third-party processing and see if it moves over there. And then if they're not, or if they're still holding monies in an account, then the state prosecutor has that tool for that. It's just so that the whole idea of the 7 days is that it's just not to make sure, to ensure that campaigns are not just sitting or leaving money in these third-party processors, because that leads to, it led to issues for a delegate that they were using it for personal payments rather than, and we couldn't see that because it wasn't coming through, or it wasn't a part of our, they weren't moving the monies into the bank account where we could have probably seen it sooner.
And so this establishes statute and regulations
Yes,
to
and
oversee
by
that
having-
whole process. Okay. And that sounds very critical. And it's all new. This process is new. These regulations are new to address those concerns. And I appreciate those points of clarification. I would still like to circle back on in regards to the focus on what ensuring that the third-party vendors are attached to the campaign and not personal accounts, or a way for them to store funds and supersede the $6,000 threshold. That's all. All right. And I hope you guys would be open to that consideration.
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that being said, we are now back and at those provisions. Has everyone received the updated campaign finance definition 33.13.06.01?
Yes.
Had a chance to review? All right, any questions or concerns?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, where I'm looking through the public site now, are they labeled something else? I apologize.
Alan?
Just wanna
Can you
make
hear
sure-
me? Can y'all hear me? I'm having a technical problem. IT is working on my computer, so I have not been able to update. I apologize. But I'll have
No
that too on the
problem.
website.
Well, until that is done, we will push this until May. Thank you very much. Those provisions will be pushed till our May board meeting. With that being said, thank you all very much for your patience and due diligence. Is there any old business? No? Is there any new business?
Mr. Chair, I just had a question for Jared regarding this. these
Yes, sir.
Regulations. Thank you. You know, I was, a number of us, I was a candidate for local and state office here. And plus I was on the Montgomery County Board for 6 years. And as a candidate, I've always found that the regulations and rules to follow was the most burdensome and, what word am I looking for? Difficult and at times unpleasant road to navigate, because, you know, you want to obey the law. So my question is to Jared and to you, Mr. Chair. Since I've been on the board now, it's coming on a year, time flies. We've added a number of regulations, but I have not seen any regulations either withdrawn or vacated or dropped. So my question is, do we make any efforts, Jared, to look at regulations to reduce the burdensome of these the election laws, a thick book. Do we make any efforts to reduce, combine, do away with regulations that may have seen their time go by?
Yes, I mean, we periodically do review regulations and make sure that they're updated, and if they're outdated, to repeal and replace them. I can tell you personally, I did when we did it with public financing, and when the law changed, like we had to go through it all. But the one thing here too is that Chair, on these regs here, one of them is just about changing the law. Speaking of what the Vice Chair was mentioning here, on the candidate, I'm sorry, on the responsibilities of the chair there, and it was 33-13-06-04. That has nothing to do with the third-party processors procedures there. It changes the wording to approve rather than if you look at them here. So it basically, it talks about instead of this is a perfect example here. So the 04, the disbursements there, it says the treasurer shall make. We are changing it to authorize, and the same thing for the chair, which is may make to approve. So this is in basically giving regulations to the chair and to the treasurer to authorize disbursements. They don't have to make the actual disbursement themselves, and that's codifying existing language here.
Well, thank you.
So
I just raised this.
You can hold the other ones, Chair, but I think that one can move forward.
I just raised this topic generically that to me, if we can, I'd love to see some of these regulations just reduced. They are very burdensome, Jared. When you're out there running for office, you're on a local board, there's a lot of technicality here, and it's really burdensome. And most of our people that run for office, if not all, and the staffs and the campaign workers, they're just lay people that are trying to help a candidate get elected. And this can be a burdensome labyrinth for many people. And I would just like to see if we can reduce regulations. I think it would be well received. That's all. Thank you.
Appreciate your comment. This is under new business and the administrator is requesting that we accept a recommendation that was properly posted. And it is my understanding that this regulation was properly posted with regards to chair responsibilities defined under 33.13.06.04. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
It was properly posted.
Yeah.
Prior to a request.
Yeah.
A recent request that had it reposted. Okay. So with that being said, everyone, that language has not changed.
No,
There was no proposed change. Um, the chair is open to a motion to accept the administrator's recommendation to proceed, proposal for 33.13.06.04 campaign finance chair responsibilities defined. Is there a motion to accept the administrator's recommendation?
So moved.
So moved, member Weissman. Is there a second? Been probably seconded by member Jackson Stanley. All those in favor, please exercise by your voice vote for approval by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Unfortunately, I didn't hear a unanimous vote. So I heard, and I'll recount by name or roll call. I heard, member Weissman, your vote.
Aye.
Member Butler, your vote.
Aye.
Member Jackson Stanley, your vote
Aye.
in favor.
Yes, aye.
Member Shallak,
Aye.
your vote in favor.
Aye.
All right. It in chair votes aye. So it is unanimous consent to accept the administrator's recommendation and approve the regulation 33.13.06.04 campaign finance chair responsibilities defined. Thank you very much for that clarification, Jared. Thank you, members, for working with us and your patience. Disclosure of campaign contributions. Are there any disclosures to be made at this time?
no.
All right, hearing none, seeing none. Thank you very much. And now moving to scheduling our next meeting. I was looking at May. Any recommendations from the administration?
So right now, it would be May 29th, which is after Memorial Day. Because May 20, yes, so that's the last
Yeah,
Thursday.
there's 5
in-
Thursdays in May. Okay. Anyone have an issue or concern with May 29th?
No, I just have a question. Will we be meeting at 1 o'clock or back to 2 o'clock?
I would hope back to 2. I would propose back to 2, but I'm open to the board's
That
discretion.
works for me.
Okay.
It's fine.
All
2
right.
o'clock. Okay, thank you.
So May 29th, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
May 29th at 2.
at 2. Yes. Okay. Now thank you all very much. I hope you have that documented. There will be a closed session, so I will be seeking a motion to move to closed session. We will not be back to open session, to our open meeting. Is there a motion to close? And we will be closing now to go into our closed session. This is a purpose for discussing security assessments or deployments relating to information resource technology and to consult with staff, consuls, or other individuals about pending potential litigation. Additionally, we'll receive procurement updates. So the chair is open for a motion to move into closed session.
So moved.
It has been properly moved by member Butler. Is there a second? It's properly seconded by member Weissman. Is all
Question.
those, excuse me?
Question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I don't want to get
Member
lost.
Jackson
I got lost last time. So when we adjourn, do I go back to a separate screen? Is there a separate screen for closed session? And where do I find it?
There's this,
In your email.
it's in your email. It should be in your email.
It's
Yeah,
in my,
You should have received an email
Yeah.
for the closed session.
okay.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I'm right behind Vicky in the line of getting lost. Yeah, my
Yes,
computer-
Thank you, Jim. That we're the newbies,
it
so
is-
we have excuses for a little while
Yeah.
longer.
I've been a pain in the neck
please-
from the beginning. But can,
Please check your emails.
yes,
please.
I'm not on my computer. Can David resend it to the computer I'm on?
We don't know which one you're on, so
Yeah, David,
it's
no,
in
I'm
your
on the
email.
one, I'm on the one that David has. It's my wife's computer. David has the
Gotten the link.
email.
Okay, you should have gotten the link. David, please share that with Vice Chair. And we still need to take a vote
Yeah,
on
thank you.
moving to close session.
Aye.
All those in favor, please indicate by voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. We are now moving into closed session. We will, yes, is there a comment?
What time?
We will not be back. We will not be back, reconvening for open session, in about, for anyone needing a BRB, let's head back at 3:45. I'll give you 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I'm with you, Vicky.
Hopefully see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thank you.